All right, this is a fascinating story about how backwards the American right wing currently is. I know many of you have been following the controversy with podcast host Joe Rogan. I've been on the Rogan program 2 times. I've also spent the last year calling out lots of the misinformation that has been divulged on the Joe Rogan program. Initially, the controversy with Joe Rogan was over COVID disinformation, including multiple guests making outrageous claims about vaccines and COVID, which I couldn't possibly list now, but it led to numerous musical artists, including Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and others, to pull their music from Spotify. And it led to Joe Rogan putting out a statement about the COVID misinformation, saying, I'm not trying to spread disinformation. I'm not trying to be controversial. And I'm going to make an effort to have more people on with what we might consider sort of like the mainline medical science views. And some people felt the apology was forced. Some people felt the apology was disingenuous. Some people liked it, etc. Shortly after the COVID disinformation controversy, a compilation video of Rogan using the N-word on his show from the last decade plus came out. And it was a whole new controversy, including the artist India Ari, saying, I'm pulling my music from Spotify, and Rogan doing another apology video saying, listen, when I watch this stuff, it's not good. I recognize it's not good. And I didn't have racist intent. And okay, he did another apology. Some people didn't like the apology. Some people liked the apology. Others said this is the right thing to say. Others said this is the wrong thing to say. The content of it is not actually at issue here. What is fascinating is that the right is now turning on Rogan because he apologized. Early on in this controversy, the right were the defenders of Rogan, saying it's great that he's putting out there alternative views about COVID and vaccines, even if they're completely not based in fact. This is a guy who, don't cancel the use of the N-word is fine. It's all fine. Rogan's great. Take $100 million to come to Rumble. We learned yesterday, all this different stuff. But now that Rogan has apologized, and I'll be honest, I think the apologies are sincere. It doesn't mean anything in particular about Rogan's intent when he said the stuff. I have no idea. But I do think his apologies are sincere, at least as far as he feels today. Now the right is turning on Rogan. First and foremost, Donald Trump putting out a statement saying Joe Rogan is an interesting and popular guy, but he's got to stop apologizing to the fake news and radical left maniacs and lunatics. How many ways can you say you're sorry? Joe, just go about what you do so well and don't let him make you look weak and frightened. That's not you, and it never will be. So Trump, not pleased with the apologies, but still sort of deferential to Rogan. But then all sorts of conservative media and elected officials saying Rogan is wrong to apologize. Let's look first at a clip of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis saying, no. The apology is bad.
Mob will come after people, and they're targeting Rogan because he's threatening to upset the apple cart on some of the things that they're holding dear. And with COVID, he's just bringing opposing views. He's letting people decide. They say he's against vax. I've not listened to his show, but then I read he specifically advocated for people with comorbidities and elderly to get vaccinated. And so a lot of this is just, I think he's got a huge audience. I think a lot of the legacy outlets and I think the left fear the fact that he can reach so many people. And so they're out to destroy him. But
Now, the funny thing is, Rogan's audience, by most estimates, is down 50% since he moved to Spotify. So this fear about the audience, it's kind of a weird thing. But okay, DeSantis says the apology was wrong and Trump says the apology was wrong. But then look at what is happening on other conservative media outlets. Here is Steven Crowder weighing in on the apology stuff.
I'm not going to lie. I was upset. Yes. I was angry with Joe as well. And I'll explain to you why. I'm more angry, of course, with the people who've tried to, I hate to use the term cancel culture, but the people who've tried to destroy his life and his livelihood. Now, Joe Rogan is bigger than them, so good for him. It shouldn't affect him. I hope he understands the power that he has. Unfortunately, he's caved a little bit, and that makes it harder for everybody else. And I have a lot of respect for Joe. I think he's a good guy. I've spent some time with him. So it's always hard for me, just full disclosure, to be objective when I know somebody.
So anyway, there's Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder says Joe Rogan caved. Then we go next to Steve Bannon, Trump propagandist Steve Bannon, also not pleased. Let's listen to him.
Okay, welcome. You're in the War Room. It's Monday, 7 February, the year of our Lord 2022. Now with closing in almost 140 million downloads on the podcast. And I just want to add, we did that without Spotify, and we did that without groveling to Spotify. More on Spotify in the days and weeks ahead. But it is amazing. And note to Joe Rogan, the more you grovel, the more episodes they're going to take down.
So Joe Rogan being admonished by Steve Bannon for groveling, and then we also have Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck doesn't like what Rogan has done. And I think the audio comes in.
First of all, Joe, never apologize. And I don't mean it like never apologize when you've done something that you find offensive or wrong. You should always apologize when you have done something that you're ashamed of. So apology accepted, apology warranted, perhaps.
Maybe
if you were using it in context, I don't think so. But maybe
should Joe Biden apologize for what he said in that? I don't think so.
No, I don't.
He was quoting someone. That's.
I am giving. I don't know every word that Joe Rogan has said on the podcast, so maybe he has thrown it out there, 12 years ago, without context. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying, if that was what happened, then you should apologize, but not to these people. Not to these people. If you really did hurt and offend people with it, your audience would have told you that. You wouldn't be as successful as you are now.
This is just, it's just kind of weird. It's a weird argument that Glenn Beck makes because he wasn't as well known at the time that he did the segments that became part of that compilation. So I don't, the better question would be, if you said that stuff now, what would be the reaction from your much bigger audience? And I think it's very clear that much of the current audience would be offended. So anyway, the point here is what has gotten the right to now say, Joe, you're groveling. Joe, you're doing the wrong thing, is that he has apologized. An apology that I know many in my audience think is completely insincere. I've said this idea that an apology is not warranted here seems bizarre to me. And of course, if you believe that he was forced by Spotify to apologize in order to keep his show, that would be a reason to think the apology is disingenuous. But it doesn't appear to be the case. Spotify has said, we're keeping Rogan. We've pulled some episodes because of some of the content, but we like Rogan. We're keeping Rogan. And it is amazing how what has triggered the right is, a dozen uses of the N-word. No, they're fine with that. Total out and out COVID disinformation from guests that Rogan doesn't challenge. They say, no, he's giving alternate views. That's totally fine. The apology has catalyzed and coalesced Trump, DeSantis, Steven Crowder, Stephen Bannon, Glenn Beck, and others who I'm not playing today to say now Rogan is doing the wrong thing. The apology is now the wrong thing. These people are truly incredible. And it just reminds us these are not good counterparts to any kind of real discussions about solving problems on the planet that affect humans and moving forward in a productive way. They're just not good faith actors. One of our sponsors is Kamikoto, who creates elegant high-end Japanese steel kitchen knives using traditional techniques from Honshu, Japan. I'm a huge fan of Japanese kitchen knives. I've owned a bunch of different sets. None as nice as my Kamikoto knives made with real Japanese steel. Every knife comes in a beautiful heavy-duty Ashwood box and a lifetime guarantee. You can get them in several different sets and combinations. Kamikoto makes it really easy to figure out which one is best for you. You can also pick up one of Kamikoto's sharpening whetstones, which are designed specially for Kamikoto knives. I've had an excellent experience using Kamikoto knives in my kitchen at home. It just feels comfortable in your hand. The mechanics of slicing with high quality Japanese knives like these feel really, really nice. And right now, Kamikoto is having a huge Valentine's Day sale. You get $50 off on top of their other offers when you go to kamikoto.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.